Well, good afternoon, everyone. I guess since it's already up there and as one of the topics that we had set for today, are you ready to start, or do y'all want to start somewhere else?
I think where we left off, maybe at the last meeting, we were talking about the collaboration time, and you had some concerns you said that you were going to take back to your leadership team.
Yes,
So we were wondering if we could circle back to that first and then
absolutely.
lead right into national board certification.
Well, my surface locked, so give me a second. Okay, so basically, coming out of our conversations after looking at what was proposed at the last meeting by the NEA. Um, First, obviously, we hear the concerns, and we've worked through many of the concerns through the course of last year. Um, I again feel like many of the concerns came from the fact that I didn't do a very good job of making sure that building administrators understood and didn't provide enough information during the rollout period. Um, I would like to see us work through getting those things shored up. We knew that there was going to be issues with first year of implementation, and we heard two different messages last time. One of them being there was too much oversight by admin, and one of them being that it was a complete flop because admin didn't tell us what to do. So again, going back to that previous comment. Um, Obviously, we want a balanced approach. We want to try to make sure that this collaboration time is meaningful for teachers, but also from the district perspective, we've got to make sure that, as I stated in the last meeting, it doesn't spiral out of control the opposite way as well. And we suggest that in the areas where, or the locations where there's confusion or concerns that have occurred, that the certified staff work directly with the building leaders to develop the structures and plan that is beneficial to all involved. One of those areas being the supplementals or the one-offs, so to speak. We know that there was a huge concern with how are those people going to be involved in that collaboration time, or what about when they're teaching a subject that's completely different from what other people are doing, and how do they get that collaboration within there? I truly feel that within the same verbiage that we currently have, we can get to that point within those structures. It's just going to take making sure that, again, that our building principals understand where those boundaries are and where we will operate within, and providing that structure for it. Believe that in the areas that the members of the PLC, so to speak, determine the agenda topics, and what subgroups needed to be formed and what planning needed to occur, it worked very well within those structures. But in other areas where those structures did not exist and people did not feel like they had input on the agendas and the topics, it did not work well at all. And again, truly believe that within the same structures, we have some flourishing and some feeling micromanaged, and for many different reasons. However, truly believe that within what is currently there in the negotiated agreement, we can get to the point where everyone can flourish. We just have to figure out how to get everyone to understand how the structure works to improve the collaboration. So, all in all, we are not currently willing to change the language to add uncertainty to what should or shouldn't occur during that time. We believe that what is currently spelled out in there about all certified staff will engage in inquiry, action, research, data analysis, planning, pacing, implementation, reflection, and evaluation of data, etc., as well as professional learning arising from these activities, with the main purpose of this time to provide and facilitate increased collaboration with colleagues, encapsulates what we both want out of the time. It's working through shoring up at the structural level in the buildings to make sure that all of those areas can flourish like we know certain areas are already.
Okay, I guess we will take that under advisement and move on to National Board.
Okay, I have in the shared drive information for National Board certification. I also have paper top copies if anybody wants a paper copy. I think there's 2 there. I don't have a paper copy of the National Board Certification pay scales that we've looked into, but we have looked into other people that are similar in our size. If you look at the National Board Certification pay scale that's currently up on the screen or on your screen, depending on what you're looking at, we have several of the ones that we feel like are close in our size and what they're currently paying. Dodge City pays the $1,000 that they're given to us by the state, and then they pay $500 towards certification costs. Each module that the certification, each module, there's 4 modules to the certification itself, and each module costs $475 each. The state requires that each school pay $1,000 per year for any certified teacher who has this certification. And that is the absolute minimum that they can pay, and so Dodge City pays the minimum that is required. If you look up on the list for what other people pay, I felt like when I saw the list that when I saw Hayes was paying $3,400, I felt that was kind of an eye-opener because they are in our WAC, and they're paying quite a bit more than we are, as are some of the rest of them. Olathe, notwithstanding, they pay $1,000, but they pay $1,000 per semester. And you can kind of look there what Garden City pays. They pay a range as to which level you're on, as to what your completion is. And they also pay for 2 of the 4 modules that are there. I just kind of went in and looked at this, and as I told Jason earlier, we're just going to kind of shoot the moon on what we're going to ask for, and then hopefully you guys can negotiate with us and see what we can come up with, maybe something toward the middle. And I'm just going to look at the paper. But if you look at the negotiation, the copy of what we are asking for, we asked that the district would pay $3,500 per year for each person who attains this. And if you don't know what this is, the National Board Certification is not something that everybody does, by far. We've had, Ms. Mendoza can remember one other person having it in her time here, and maybe one other person that she thought might have had it in her time here when I talked to her about it. So it's not something that everybody goes through and gets. I'm gonna be doing it starting. I applied for the process this year, which means I'll be going through the process starting next year. It allows you to get a 10-year certificate if you pass through it. It takes about 400 to 500 hours worth of work in order to get through the process, and that is work that you're not doing on school time. That's work on your own time, not during the school day process. But you are actually videoing your classes for the modules that you go through, and you're graded by teachers who are not in the state of Kansas. You're graded by other NCBT teachers who have already gone through the process, and you're graded outside your own state because they don't want you graded by your own state. They want you graded by other people who've gone through the process, not in your state, but make sure that you've met the requirements from other people not in your own area. It could be anybody from New York to California who are grading you. The first module basically you go through is just the basics, where you just go through and fill out the information and you go through all the basics. And then after that, you have to start recording your classes, and they look at how well you go through your own teaching, and they give you different things that you have to apply within your own teaching, within your own education modules that also fall under their modules, that also graded by the standards that you're required to teach within your own state. And like as I said, it's 400 to 500 hours worth of work, and it is not an easy process to get through. That's why nobody does it. But we've asked that the state pay, that the district pay $3,500 to anybody who does pass this, and that they pay each one of the modules, and that they do provide us 2 work days per component to go through this. Garden City does provide, and I didn't put this on here because I didn't know this at the time when I wrote this. The email came later, but Garden City does provide their teachers work days to go through this time per each module. I didn't know that at the time. That part of the email came later when I was looking into it. But I feel like more people would do it if they had the opportunity to go through it, but I still don't think you're looking at 10 teachers a year going through anything of this magnitude. I think anybody that would do this was going to have to be a pretty exceptional teacher to go through this, to go through the process of this, and want to put themselves through this kind of work ethic. Even if they don't pass, they still get their 5-year certificate, which is through that, but they also can obtain college credit. Even if they don't pass, they can get anywhere from 3 to 6 hours of college credit just for going through the motions of it. You get 3 years to do this. Some people, crazy people, have tried to do this in a year, and a few make it, but most of them take at least 2 years. And the pass rate on this is less than 40% pass on the first time. Obviously, my goal is to pass on the first time, but we'll see. But that's what it is.
Thank you. And yes, I learned a whole lot more than I knew about this program actually last year through conversation with Lisa, when we actually ended up bringing somebody from Emporia State out here to try to do a regional kind of a recruiting event, for lack of a better term. So to your point, yes, there's not a lot of people that are currently going through this. And so one clarifying question. So on that paragraph where it requests the $3,500, and then the additional, any addition the district will pass through, so that would include the $1,000 that's automatically passed through as well? Is that the intention there?
$3,500 would include that $1,000.
So it would be included in that
$3,500
$3,500
more.
Okay. Okay. You want to give us 15 minutes to caucus and discuss it real quick, and we'll be back. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Coming back, I was just telling Lisa that 15 minutes went really fast. I still need to look at a few things in terms of the leave portion and things, because I know we currently have some academic leave provisions built in, and so would this be an extension of what's already there? Would we set this by itself as far as the days that are requested?
I don't know. I guess we could use the academic leave. I hadn't really thought of that.
On average, do you have you spoke with people that have gone through this? Do you know how many days you can expect to possibly be gone during the course of one module, so to speak?
I don't know. I would have to ask.
Okay. Would you be able to, because I'm going to be honest, we don't feel like anything you asked for, honestly, is out of line. I know you came in saying you're shooting for the moon, but we just may need a little more time to really dig into it. I want to ask a few questions of the business office as to how we, like, is the payment we currently make simply the pass through, so it's really net neutral to the district right now, other than the $500, and get a good understanding of that piece. So when we come back with an actual number figure and things, that we can do the best we can possibly do.
I can check with, I have a couple ladies at Garden City who are in the program that I can ask them how long, how often they're gone for the module.
I'm going to throw this at you, and just for the sake of getting a good laugh, one of our team members actually mentioned paying more than asking price for something like this. So
that's nice.
There you go. All right. So yeah, if we can table this one for now, we will get things honed in on, and I really feel like we can come to an agreement that makes sense for both the DCNEA and the district. We really feel strongly that if somebody goes through this program and has to do everything that's required within this program, it's going to benefit not just that individual, which is what this is really intended for in a lot of situations, but it's going to benefit the district as a whole in the end. I will mention one other conversation we had was potentially, if we're going to make these payments yearly, possibly adding in some language where those individuals provide some sort of PD back to the district as a small offset of those payments, because they will be trained in these different areas. So expect that when we come back to it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Do we want to go back to kindergarten readiness or leave, or
we were ready to go.
Okay. So, Dr. Springston.
Jacob, I think you have it on in the folder. If you go to, I'm not sure where it was dropped, but I just did a one-page summative. I'm passing around a hard copy of what's in there, and I want to just briefly go over this because I think it encapsulates what we talked about. There is one item in there that's different. No, that's not it. It should have today's date. Yeah, the updates. Yep, that's it. Okay, yep, that's it. Okay, so what we had talked about, I won't recap everything unless somebody needs that, but what I took the language and the suggestions both from from the full team here in this room, and there were some questions that we had that we needed to clean up. So what we're looking at is extending the contract. You can see the proposed language change at the top for Article 2. It would be adding 5 additional contract days just for kindergarten teachers, and for the purpose to extend that learning opportunity for students based on feedback from staff for routines, maybe fast bridge assessments, just to get a little head start on the kiddos when they come in, knowing about at least 40% of the kids that come into kindergarten each fall have not received any formal, or potentially have not received any formal education or schooling. So down below are some of the key bullet points that we talked about as a group. So What we said is the first day of this 5-day extension would be a teacher work day. So it'd be 5 total days added. 1 would be teacher work day, 4 would be student contact. During the 23-24 school year, this would not occur if it were to be passed and ratified, would not occur until the 24-25 school year. Next year would be a prep year. We would use next year from a district office standpoint to iron out the transportation, food service, classified instructional staff, and custodial support staff. If you remember, and it's in that folder, the vast majority of our teachers teach the 2-week jump start currently for kindergartners, and a good percentage, and there was data in there, how many of our kindergartners attend jump start. So it's a super majority. We talked about specials, and so this will be a little bit new in the sense of what's being proposed to this group, but it's not a new topic. We did talk about how would we ensure plan time for the teachers. I think specials was brought up, but what we're proposing here is student dismissal. Each of the 4 student contact days would be 50 minutes less. In other words, what the normal day would look like, we back off 50 because there would be no specials, and that'd be the teacher's daily plan period, or plan time, professional planning. Article 35, and this would be a new one, Article 35 would not apply to that extended week. In other words, it would not be that Wednesday collaboration time. That was not discussed, so that is new. I want to point that out. Kindergarten students would not report during that intermission between the 5-day extended kindergarten contract and then when we have new teachers report for convocation, workday, etc. The next bullet, we would consult, or we would refer to YMCA and try to see if they could come in and provide additional services like we do for breaks already in the academic calendar for those kindergarten students. Staff transfers came up, and what we have in here is staff transfers would remain within the purview of negotiated agreement currently, Articles 13 and 13A. I'm not recommending any changes to that. And I read over this last bullet. The wording's a little clunky. In essence, what we're talking about is next year, if this were to be ratified, we would use the professional development steering committee to identify what will be professional development ramp-up activities to get those kindergarten teachers ready to go. And so we would use next fall and winter to kind of get feedback from kindergarten teachers, prep what that looks like, and then provide that training. So that was supposed to be short. It wasn't. So I'll open it up to questions or clarifications.
All right. So thank you for bringing back a proposal with some of our concerns addressed. We had sent out a survey to our certified staff, and it was just very brief. I think it was 2 questions. Do you support this proposal as it is written? And it was a resounding no. So as it was currently written, we knew that it was going to be hard for us to get that through. But with the changes, we have some additional concerns. Going from the 5 days, because you've added the day for teachers, which we appreciate, but that brings us down to 4 student contact days, and then you take the 50 minutes off, so that's like 6 hours a day, right? So 32 hours. And currently they're going 10 half days, right? During Jump Start. So what I'm saying is that with this new proposal, the students would actually be getting less contact time than actually more contact time. So that's kind of my question. I thought maybe this proposal the purpose of it was to increase the student contact time. Now it looks like maybe we're not increasing it.
On that other document, there's some rationale in there. I think the 3 pieces, that's a fair point. But part of the concern that teachers have come to us with is time to teach routines, which is what, if you look at the brochure, there's some documents in there as far as Jumpstart. That's one of the pieces that they wanted. And Tammy can attest to kind of the Jumpstart questions. Having an academic day to be able to get kids used to what that is, to embed in not only those routines, but also to do some of the fast bridge testing and keeping as much of the intention of this was to be as close to a normal day as possible. The reason they would be released for specials, so instead of, the teacher wouldn't see them anyway when they go to either PE or music or whatever their specials rotation is. So for all practical purposes, it'd be a normal day for the teacher. The students would be the 50 minutes less. They wouldn't have the specials. So you are correct in the aggregate. I think the structures here would provide more of a realistic academic day and a ramp up for our kids than 3-hour half days would over 2 weeks.
Yeah, can we caucus for 15 minutes? Okay. I'm not sure if it's really been 15 minutes, but it seemed like a long time. So we still have concerns with the proposal as it is presented. We don't have an extensive survey. We do know that our people do not support the previous version. So with that being said and the changes you've made, it appears that some of the feedback that we did get, specific feedback that we did get, were full days for kindergarten is a lot. So having them start full days is still going to be a lot, even if we do it, 2 weeks sooner than they were originally planning. And overall, it looks like, doing the math, it's going to be about 11 hours and 40 minutes less of student contact time than the current version. So maybe some things that were said in the previous meeting was that if we went to this, then Jumpstart, which is not currently required, but this new proposal would make it a requirement, brings questions of how do we handle teachers who are sick or need to take a sick day? Do they get additional sick days? What do we do with that? Will those teachers be penalized having to take some of their sick leave before their original contract if they only have 12 days as it currently is? Are they getting additional days? Additional concerns that we have would be the less contact time. Would it be possible to stay with the current system and just make the current Jumpstart with the 10 half-day attendance be required? So at this point, since it isn't something for our contract for the coming year, we wondered if you just, since you have the MOU topics associated, if we could just put this all to an MOU and let a committee further vet this so that we can make sure that we're talking to the elementary teachers who this is really going to affect. We have one at the table, elementary teacher at the table, but she's not a kindergarten teacher currently, so she definitely has better access to it than a lot of us at the table, this information, but we would hate to make a change without talking to the people who this is really going to affect.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess to further clarify, we would want to strike that last part of the line, and not to exceed 188 days for kindergarten teachers, and just leave it at the 183 days for all teachers for this year, but then leave that MOU language in there so that we could have that committee. And if the committee decides to make changes, then we would be open to adjusting the contract.
So in the MOU or language for the MOU, who would you plan on being that committee that would make that determination?
Well, I was kind of thinking of this in terms of kind of how we did the leave committee and send out a request of who would want to be on the committee. I'm sure we could get some kindergarten teachers who would want to be on that committee, but I also think it's important to include other elementary teachers as well, because I think, as was stated in the previous meeting, is most of the Jumpstart for kindergarten or our current kindergarten teachers, but sometimes you do have to ask other elementary teachers to fill in due to certain circumstances. So I think it definitely shouldn't be limited to only kindergarten teachers. Definitely probably either the president, which would be Holly Ann, or a representative if she feels comfortable with that. And then I think our elementary superintendent, Jason, I think you need to be there, Scott.
So as far as like number of teachers, I guess, is there a rough, I mean, there's 25 roughly kindergarten teachers. If you don't need all of their representation, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the meetings and the scope of the meetings and things like that.
Could we try and aim to get one representative per school? And even if it, like, we definitely maybe don't have to push that it has to be the kindergarten teacher, but someone who would be there representing or representative of the kindergarten teacher.
I mean, I think this is a doable proposal. I would want to kind of get some suggestions on timeline and when we want to get this committee to bring back some suggestions or some, I think we need to clarify what we're asking the committee to provide this full body and then what timeline that we would be seeking.
So do we want to shift at this point in time to actually creating the verbiage for the MOU? Or do you want to bring verbiage for the MOU back and then we go from there? I'm going to go ahead and request that you all propose the verbiage for the MOU at some point, either today or in the future meeting, and then we can go from there. I don't think we are against going that route, obviously. Just need to know exactly kind of where we would sit with timeline and things like that.
And I would agree with what Joel just mentioned, that like in the fall, do it early so that, because that's one of the reasons that it came now, so there was plenty of time to plan for it. So if you did it in the fall and started that timing, then that would probably be ideal.
That, and if we contact the teachers and kind of let them know what we're wanting, they can start thinking while they're doing Jumpstart, what can I do to make this better and what could I bring to the table? It's going to be fresh in their mind and they'll be thinking of it.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, can I go back to NBCT real quick? You asked how often we would be gone for anything. I just got a message from my coworker in Garden City, and they are not gone from school for any of the components unless they're working on with their professional days, because all of the meetings and workshops are on the weekends.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to talk and take minutes. All the things. No, just real quick. All right, does the board have anything to bring up next? That was kind of where we were at with things for today.
if you want to share something already or talk to your team about it. Well, and yes and no, because we already know that there was some concerns about that when it finally came to the end of it, and so I don't want to go directly back to that exact language. And again, we'll have time. I mean, we'll agree on the language because I think, to Jill's point, we want to actually have the timeline built into this one more so than what we did on the leave. But other than that, we don't have any other topics currently to bring up. And my wife, who has birthday today, will be pleased if I get out of here before 6 o'clock.
Before we leave, can we talk about a next meeting date?
Absolutely.
So school is out in just a few days, which means we'll have more time. So kind of consensus among our group was, could we try and meet next Wednesday and try and do like an all-day marathon meeting? Like 9 a.m. till... No, not till we're done, but like 4. Like, let's be bankers.
I unfortunately would not be available until around 11 o'clock. I've got a meeting already set with the Dr. Church, who completed our classified engagement survey, to go over the results at 9:30. So
Could we do 11 to 4?
Wednesday. Well, and there's one team, and we're getting to this point in this process that there's one team member that we don't have here that's going to be pivotal if we're going to try to pull a marathon to actually get some things locked in. So I hate to do that, knowing that we're trying to extend a long and then have to come back and say, oh, that person's out. So what can we really get done?
Is it Hammer? Because
Yes.
we need him, because the next topic
That's-
we really wanted to hit was the money.
Yeah. And we know, and that needs to come up, and that's why I say we really need him, and he's out. So I really need to have a conversation with him to make sure it works. And I think we are to the point where hopefully we can get to some conclusions on a few of these things and move on from them. I just don't know if doing it in an all-day marathon is the most productive way to do it, or doing it in shorter sessions where we lock in and say we're going to finish this one, finish this one, finish this one, is more productive. This is my second year, so that was kind of a question halfway. I have not been part of these things. I haven't been part of an all-day marathon before in any scope in these things. So if any of you have...
Yeah. Some districts
Okay.
do kind of closed door and they finish it in 2 or 3 days and then are done.
Let's shoot for 11 to 4 that day, and I'll try to get it locked in with the rest of our team that can be there, and we'll move from there. Because, yeah, there's a lot of other things that are going to start up the following week after that.
Right.
So
That's what we were kind of like, well, if we can... The 2 days we talked about would be Tuesday and Wednesday, Wednesday being our preference.
Yeah, I'm not even here on Tuesday. I'm in Andover at a regional CASPA meeting on Tuesday, so.
I guess if you can check on the Wednesday and let us know as soon as possible if that doesn't work, and we'll reach out to our people and see what Thursday looks like for them.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.